Julius Caesar, Act 3, Scene 1, Question 1. What reason does Caesar give for not reading Artemidorus's letter? As Caesar walks toward the Senate, Artemidorus tries to hand him a letter warning him about the conspiracy. However, Caesar refuses to read it immediately, saying, "What touches us ourselves shall be last served." This means that Caesar prioritizes Rome's affairs over personal matters and will address his own concerns later. This highlights Caesar's arrogance and his belief in his own invincibility, which ultimately leads to his downfall. 2. What roles do the following characters play in the conspiracy? Trebonius. His role is to distract Mark Antony and lure him away from Caesar before the assassination begins. This is crucial because Antony is loyal to Caesar and could have intervened to save him. Trebonius ensures that Antony is not present at the moment of the killing. Metellus Cimber. He plays the role of a distraction by pleading with Caesar to repeal his brother Publius Cimber's banishment. This request is meant to engage Caesar in conversation and provide the other conspirators an opportunity to surround him. Cass. He is the first conspirator to strike Caesar. While the others engage Caesar in conversation, Cass initiates the attack by stabbing him from behind. His action signals the other conspirators to begin their assault on Caesar. 3. What is Caesar's opinion of himself? Caesar believes he is steadfast, unmovable, and superior to others. He compares himself to the North Star, which remains fixed in the sky while other stars move. This metaphor suggests that he sees himself as a constant, just, and unwavering leader. He also dismisses the idea of changing his mind regarding Metellus Cimber's plea, asserting that he is not easily swayed by emotions or manipulation. However, this belief in his own infallibility contributes to his downfall, as he fails to recognize the threat posed by those around him. 4. What does et tu, brute, mean? How do these words relate to the theme of friendship in the play? Et tu, brute, translates to, and you, Brutus. These are Caesar's last words, expressing shock and betrayal when he sees his close friend Brutus among the conspirators. This moment is significant because it highlights the theme of friendship and betrayal. Caesar could have anticipated treachery from others, but Brutus's involvement wounds him emotionally more than the physical attack. It underscores the idea that betrayal from a trusted friend is the most painful and that political ambition can destroy even the strongest of friendships. 5. Where does Caesar's dead body lie? How is this ironic? Caesar's body falls at the base of Pompey's statue. This is ironic because Pompey was Caesar's former rival whom he defeated to gain ultimate power in Rome. The fact that Caesar dies at the feet of his fallen enemy's statue symbolizes poetic justice and foreshadows the consequences of his ambition. It also suggests that power is fleeting and that those who seek to dominate others often meet tragic ends. 6. What does Brutus tell the conspirators to do after killing Caesar? Brutus tells the conspirators to bathe their hands and swords in Caesar's blood and then walk through the streets of Rome, declaring that they have freed the Republic from tyranny. This act is symbolic, as Brutus believes they have committed a noble deed. He thinks that by publicly displaying Caesar's blood, they will be seen as liberators rather than murderers. However, this decision later backfires as the public does not view the assassination in the way Brutus intended. 7. What promise does Brutus tell the servant to relay to Antony? Brutus instructs the servant to tell Antony that he is safe and that they do not intend to harm him. Brutus reassures Antony that he will understand their reasons for killing Caesar once they explain. He invites Antony to meet them and promises that Antony will be treated with respect. Brutus believes that Antony, like himself, will see the assassination as an act of patriotism rather than murder. 8. What does Antony say about the possibility of being killed by the conspirators? Antony says that if they intend to kill him as well, they should do it now while he stands over Caesar's body. He declares that there would be no better place or time to die than alongside his great leader. He tells them, "If you have a heart to murder me, do it now. For I would rather die by Caesar's side than live without him." Antony's words serve as a test to gauge the conspirators' intentions, but they also reflect his deep loyalty to Caesar. 9. After being assured he is in no danger, what favor does Antony ask of the conspirators? Antony asks for permission to speak at Caesar's funeral. He wants to address the public and give Caesar a proper farewell. Although Brutus agrees to this, Cassius is skeptical and warns that allowing Antony to speak might turn the public against them. 10. What does Cassius think about granting Antony this favor? Cassius is suspicious of Antony's motives and fears that he might use his speech to sway public opinion against the conspirators. He warns Brutus that Antony's words could spark rebellion. Cassius believes that Antony should not be allowed to speak at all, but Brutus, confident in their justification for Caesar's assassination, dismisses his concerns. 11. What restrictions does Brutus set? Brutus allows Antony to speak at the funeral but imposes certain restrictions. Antony must not blame the conspirators for Caesar's death, and he must speak only after Brutus has addressed the crowd. Additionally, Antony is required to acknowledge that he speaks with the permission of the conspirators. Brutus hopes that these restrictions will prevent Antony from turning the people against them. 12. Summarize Antony's main points in his speech to Caesar's body. After the conspirators leave, Antony mourns over Caesar's body and delivers a soliloquy filled with grief and anger. He predicts that Rome will descend into chaos and civil war as a result of the assassination. He calls upon Caesar's spirit to seek revenge, foreseeing that the conspirators will suffer the consequences of their actions. He also reveals his true intentions, to turn the Roman people against the assassins. 13. Who is coming to Rome to meet with Antony? The person coming to Rome to meet with Antony is Octavius Caesar, the adopted son and heir of Julius Caesar. Octavius is the great-nephew of Julius Caesar and had been named as his successor in Caesar's will. However, at the time of the assassination, Octavius was not in Rome. Before Antony even meets Octavius, he sends a messenger to inform him of the dangerous situation in Rome. Antony realizes that with Caesar's death, political instability is inevitable, and he must align himself with powerful allies to maintain control. Although Antony initially acts as if he is submitting to the conspirators' authority, he secretly plans to challenge them. And Octavius will play a crucial role in this. The arrival of Octavius in Rome sets the stage for a major power struggle. While Brutus and Cassius believe that they have freed Rome from tyranny, Octavius's entry into the political scene changes everything. This moment is significant because it foreshadows the ultimate downfall of the conspirators. They killed Caesar to prevent a monarchy. But their actions pave the way for Octavius, who later becomes Augustus, the first emperor of Rome. Scene 2:14. According to Brutus's speech to the commoners, what reasons does he give for Caesar's death? After Caesar's assassination, Brutus addresses the Roman people to justify the killing. He explains that he did not kill Caesar out of personal hatred but out of love for Rome. He argues that Caesar had become too ambitious and, if allowed to live, would have enslaved the Roman people. He tells them, "Not that I loved Caesar less, but that I loved Rome more." Brutus suggests that Caesar's growing power would have turned him into a dictator. which would have threatened the freedom of the Republic. He presents himself as a patriot who acted selflessly to protect Rome. He asks the people if they would rather live as slaves under Caesar or be free men, implying that Caesar's rule would have led to tyranny. Brutus appeals to their sense of nationalism and reason, hoping they will see the assassination as an honorable act. However, while his speech initially convinces the crowd, it lacks emotional appeal, making it easier for Antony to later sway them. 15. What is the mood of the crowd as Brutus finishes his speech? At first, the crowd is supportive of Brutus and the conspirators. They are moved by his logical reasoning and believe that he acted out of love for Rome. They shout praises for him, agreeing that Caesar's ambition needed to be stopped. Some even suggest that Brutus should rule Rome in Caesar's place, demonstrating their admiration for him. However, their loyalty is shallow and easily manipulated. They accept Brutus's justification without much thought, showing that they are quick to follow a persuasive speaker. This foreshadows how Antony will be able to turn them against Brutus with his own speech. 16. What does Brutus offer at the end of his speech? Brutus, believing in his moral righteousness, makes a dramatic offer to the crowd. He tells them that if his actions were wrong and if he ever becomes a threat to Rome's freedom, he is willing to die just as Caesar did. He even offers to kill himself with the same dagger he used on Caesar if the people of Rome demand it. This statement is meant to show his dedication to Rome, but it also reveals his idealistic nature and naivety. He underestimates the emotional impact of Caesar's death and overestimates the people's ability to think rationally. 17. List 3 points of Antony's speech that work to persuade the crowd to turn on the conspirators. Antony's funeral speech is one of the most famous persuasive speeches in literature. Unlike Brutus, who appeals to logic, Antony uses emotion, sarcasm, and manipulation to turn the crowd against the conspirators. His three main tactics are: 1. Repeated use of the phrase, "Brutus is an honorable man." Antony sarcastically repeats this phrase while providing evidence that contradicts it. For example, he reminds the crowd that Caesar brought riches to Rome, refused the crown 3 times, and wept for the poor, actions that do not seem ambitious. By saying, "And yet Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honorable man," Antony gradually convinces the people that Brutus is not as noble as he claims. 2. Displaying Caesar's will, Antony initially pretends he does not want to read Caesar's will because it would upset the people too much. This, of course, makes them even more eager to hear it. When he finally reveals it, the will states that Caesar left money and land to every Roman citizen, proving that he cared for them. This revelation turns the crowd completely against the conspirators. 3. Showing Caesar's stab wounds, Antony dramatically points to each wound on Caesar's body, calling them dumb mouths that beg for justice. He describes how each conspirator stabbed him, highlighting Brutus's betrayal as the most painful. This emotional appeal stirs the crowd into a violent rage, leading them to riot. 18. What reason does Antony give for why he cannot read Caesar's will? Antony pretends that reading the will would be too dangerous because it would make the people too emotional. He tells them, "It is not meet you know how Caesar loved you. You are not wood, you are not stones, but men, and, being men, hearing the will of Caesar, it will inflame you, it will make you mad." By saying this, Antony manipulates the crowd into demanding that he read the will. He builds suspense and curiosity, making them desperate to know what Caesar left for them. This is a clever rhetorical strategy because it makes the people feel like they are discovering the truth themselves rather than being told what to think. 19. What has Caesar bequeathed the Romans in his will? Caesar's will reveals his generosity and love for the Roman people. In it, he 1. Leaves each citizen 75 drachmas, a large sum of money. 2. Gives his private gardens and orchards to the public for their enjoyment. This revelation destroys the conspirators' justification for the assassination. If Caesar truly planned to enslave Rome, why would he leave such generous gifts to the people? Antony uses this to prove that Caesar was a kind leader, not a tyrant. The will turns the people completely against the conspirators, making them furious at Brutus and his allies. 20. How does the crowd react to Antony's speech? Antony's speech completely changes the mood of the crowd. At the start, they were supportive of Brutus. By the end, they are enraged and seeking revenge. They riot, burn houses, and hunt down the conspirators. This shows how easily they are manipulated by rhetoric and emotion. The crowd's reaction also marks the beginning of chaos in Rome. The city is thrown into anarchy, and civil war becomes inevitable. The conspirators, who thought they were saving Rome, now find themselves as enemies of the people. Scene 321. What happens to Cinna the poet? Why, as the enraged mob roams the streets, they come across Cinna the poet and mistake him for Cinna the conspirator. Even after he insists that he is just a poet and had nothing to do with Caesar's death, the mob kills him anyway. This scene serves as an example of mob mentality and senseless violence. The people, once easily swayed by Brutus, are now equally blinded by their anger, attacking anyone they associate with the conspirators. Their actions reflect the destructive power of manipulation, showing how quickly a peaceful public can turn into an uncontrollable, bloodthirsty mob. This event also foreshadows the fate of Brutus and Cassius. Just as the mob blindly kills Cinna, the conspirators will soon fall victim to the chaos they unleashed.